Hi, I'm Sunny Weiderman from Personal Tax Advisors, and this is 5 things you need to know before you register for a GST or HST number. Know what CRA is going to ask and what to tell them in today's tax tip. Hi there, I'm Sunny Weiderman from Personal Tax Advisors, here with another tax tip for Canadians. It's simple to get a GST or HST number in Canada. You can do it over the phone, or you can do it online. If you're registered for CRA's My Business service, or just by their business registration online service, super easy. But no matter how you register, you're going to have to provide some information and make some decisions up front. Now, for the impatient, just call CRA. If you are looking at the length of this video and going, nuh-uh, there is an end run around this whole thing. You can just call CRA, talk to an agent, and answer their questions. Seriously, you can call them at 1-800-959-5525 and get a live agent and tell them you want to register, and bam, you'll have your GST or HST account literally after a 10-minute conversation. I can even tell you what the agent is going to ask you for: your business number, if you have one, or your social insurance number, if you don't, the date on which you want the registration to begin, your expected revenue, the length of filing period you want, and your fiscal year end. And maybe that all sounds pretty self-explanatory, and, well, yeah, some of it kind of is. But some of it isn't as obvious as it may seem, and the answers you give without understanding the point of the questions could set you up with a GST HST account that frustrates you for as long as your business continues. It's like ordering shoes online without knowing your size. You'll get shoes, but you might also get blisters. So, if you've got 10 minutes to spare, read on to make sure you're armed with the right information to get the account set up that works for you. Number 1, you need your business number or social insurance number. By the way, GST and HST are really one system, which is why we'll call them the GST HST system. There's really no difference between getting an HST number and getting a GST number. They're the same number. They're used the same way. So your social insurance number or business number, this is pretty straightforward. You'll need to know your business number or your social insurance number. Either one of these serves to establish the identity of the person or business opening the GST or HST account. If you don't have a business number, don't worry about it. You'll use your social insurance number instead to identify yourself, and CRA will create a business number for you at the same time that they open the GST HST account. There's no need to get one ahead of time if you don't already have one. The second thing you'll need is the date on which you want your registration to start. Just because you're going through the process of registering a GST HST account right now doesn't mean the registration itself starts today, unless you want it to, but you might not want it to. GST HST registrants have obligations with regard to invoicing, charging, and filing GST and HST returns, and those obligations begin on the registration start date. If your revenues have already reached $30,000, the small supplier threshold, your options for registration may be limited to a certain span, maybe within a single month or within a single quarter. On the other hand, if your revenues have not reached $30,000 yet, you can choose any start date you like. But either way, if you have options, it's a good idea to pick a date that will make the transition simpler, like the beginning of the month, or the beginning of a quarter, or January 1st. All things being equal, I usually recommend a January 1st start date, because if you're able to do it, it makes record keeping and tax preparation in the first year of registration a little simpler. Not necessary, just a little easier. If you have the option, choose January 1st. The next thing you'll need is your estimated annual revenue for your business. Now, people can get tangled up with this one because they worry about accuracy. They usually don't need to. Your business's annual revenue will determine how frequently you have to file GST and HST returns to report the GST HST you've collected. CRA has different frequency requirements set for different revenue levels. Whatever your revenue, there's a minimum filing frequency associated with it. You can choose to file more frequently than the mandated rate, but you can't file less frequently. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess that you, yes you, can choose to file annually. I can do this because I have psychic powers. No, not really. For revenues of $1.5 million to $6 million, the minimum filing frequency is quarterly, once every 3 months. over 6 million, the required filing frequency is monthly. Everyone else can file annually. So you can see from this, you don't really have to be all that precise with your estimate of your revenue because there's a broad range that fits into each filing frequency. So it's okay if your estimate is a little too high or a little too low at this point. It only starts to matter when your revenues are measured in millions as to how they're going to affect your filing frequency options. The next thing you're going to need to know is your filing period, or how frequently you want to file GST or HST returns. So now you know your options, and most registrants can choose annually, quarterly, or monthly filing periods. Personal Tax Advisors recommends that non-incorporated individuals choose annual filing if their revenue permits it. That is, if their revenue is under $1.5 million. This is because it simplifies the process, as we can calculate both your income tax and your GST HST remittance at once. Plus, if you're a sole proprietor, rather than a partnership or a corporation, you actually get a nice perk here: annual extended filing. Partnerships and corporations that file annually have to settle for a March 31st filing deadline. But a sole proprietor with an annual extended filing period gets a later filing deadline of June 15th, which is the same date as a self-employed person's income tax return is due. That way, you can deal with all your tax filings in a single appointment once a year. A sole proprietor who chooses quarterly or monthly filing periods doesn't get any extended filing deadlines. So that's why I like annual filing periods, especially for sole proprietors. Quarterly or more frequent filing. Of course, you can choose to file more frequently, and quarterly, every 3 months filing, is CRA's default. If you don't express a preference, you'll be set up with quarterly filing. Next, you need your fiscal year end. In our personal lives, Canadians use January 1st to December 31st as their start and end dates of the year. This is what CRA refers to as the calendar year. However, businesses can technically use any 365-day period as their year, starting on any day of the year. For example, August 1st to July 31st. That's your fiscal year. If you're a sole proprietor, that is not incorporated, usually the simplest thing to use is the calendar year as your fiscal year because everything lines up. Your personal income tax return, which is always based on the calendar year, and your GST HST returns, not to mention, it's easier to keep track of in your head. So in most cases, your fiscal year end will be December 31st. Now, if you happen to be incorporated, however, it can be easier to line up your GST HST filing with your fiscal year because it makes things easier for whoever is filing your returns to line up all the numbers properly. So that's why CRA asks the questions they do. And hopefully now you know what you're going to want to answer to set up your account the way you want it. As for how to register, the most popular routes are online or over the phone. Your first online option is using My Business. So if you already have a business number, you can set up an online account with the Canada Revenue Agency, which is called My Business. Once you set it up, you can log into My Business and follow the links to open or create a GST HST account. Your GST HST number will always be your business number followed by RT0001. Now, if you don't have a My Business account or you don't even have a business number, but you like doing things online, you can still register your GST HST online by using CRA's BRO, which is their Business Registration Online service. Just Google Business Registration Online, it'll come up. We really do recommend that you get a My Business account, however. It does make dealing with the CRA and monitoring your various business accounts with them, including your GST and HST account, much simpler. Once you have a business number, you can set up My Business. If you're setting up GST HST for the first time, that will give you a business number, and then you can set up My Business, and we really recommend that you do it. Finally, you can actually still register by phone. It may seem like a throwback, but getting a GST HST account set up over the phone is still a great way to do it. You get to talk to a person who can walk you through things, and it only takes a few minutes if it's not tax season. During tax season, the wait times are a bit longer. You don't need a business number in order to start. That will be created during the creation of your GST HST account. Just have your SIN and your last filed tax return handy. You're going to need that to authenticate your identity. And then you're on your way. So these are the basics of setting up your GST HST registration. If you still have questions, drop them in the comments. And until next time, I'm Sunny Weiderman from Personal Tax Advisors. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.